Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving into the world of ChatGPT and its friends, discussing opportunities, costs, and, the risks behind these large language models.
Absolutely, it's a fascinating space. What really caught your attention about the discussion?
Well, um, the piece starts by defining what ChatGPT actually is. It's not exactly a language model per se, but rather a user interface that wraps around GPT 3.5, which in turn is part of a group of models often called
hmm
foundation models. Essentially, these models are the backbone of what many people casually call AI chatbots.
Right, it really underlines how ChatGPT isn't the whole model, but just a version specifically tuned for conversation.
Exactly, and it's interesting because it lists a whole cast of other characters. Models like GPT-2, GPT-4, Sydney, LaMDA, PAL-M, and even models that deal with images like Stable Diffusion.
Yeah,
It shows how diverse the ecosystem is.
so we're dealing with not just text generation, but also multimodal applications, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, take Cosmos 1, for example. It's built to handle both text and images, which really blurs the line between traditional language tasks and creative generation like art.
That mix and match approach is really opening up new avenues, is it not?
For sure. And what's really fascinating is how much of this power comes from the underlying technology.
hmm
Transformers. The attention is all you need idea is revolutionary here.
Right? Transformers allow these models to handle long range dependencies in text, kind of like how we understand context without reading every single word over and over.
Exactly. It's like they're able to look at the forest, not just each tree, and that's why even when two sentences seem almost identical, like she poured water until it was full versus until it was empty, the model can pick up on important, subtle differences.
Right, those nuanced differences are what allow these models to be so effective, even if they sometimes get arithmetic or citations wrong.
Yeah, that's another key point. Despite all this sophistication, these models, ChatGPT specifically, tend to generate language that sounds convincing but isn't necessarily true. They're optimized for plausibility over actual accuracy. So you
Yeah,
really have to be cautious when it comes to factual correctness.
I always find it interesting how they mention that even though it passes the Turing test, what you're really getting is a language pattern matcher, not a truth machine.
Precisely. And on that note, the risks inherent in using these models are substantial. For instance, the problem of prompt injection, it's like SQL injection for language prompts. Hackers could potentially
hmm
trick the model into doing things that, well, break the rules entirely.
Yes, that analogy really makes it clear how vulnerable systems built on these models can be if proper security isn't in place.
And then there are the issues around copyright. The piece points out that what the AI generates might inadvertently stitch together segments from its training data verbatim, and that throws up big questions about intellectual property.
That's a really hot topic, but don't you think that over time these issues might be mitigated by better guidelines or technology adjustments?
Possibly, though I'm somewhat skeptical. Or rather, I think it'll always be a bit of an arms race between innovation and regulation.
Right?
It's like trying to regulate something that's evolving in real time.
Absolutely. Speaking of evolution, the discussion also dives deep into the training costs and complexities, right?
Yes, it really lays out some eye-watering numbers. Training some of these models can cost anywhere between a couple of million to over $10 million, and then there's the cost of maintaining them operationally. ChatGPT, for example, runs on something like $40 million per month in computing costs. It's astonishing when you
hmm
think about the scale.
That makes you appreciate the infrastructure behind these seemingly simple chat interactions.
For sure. And then there's the whole business application side. Content creation, legal drafting, customer service, education, programming assistance, and even personalized financial advice. The
Yeah,
list is basically endless, which is both exciting and a bit unnerving.
it is. And each of those applications comes with its own set of challenges. Like, for content creation, despite the convenience, there's always the risk of generating inaccurate or dull prose.
Exactly. Even though on one hand ChatGPT can churn out text quickly, it often needs human editing to be reliable and engaging. And for fields like law or financial advice, precision is like absolutely critical.
Right? And I guess if you're using it for legal work, as impressive as getting a 90th percentile bar exam score might seem for GPT-4, you still have to review everything manually.
Absolutely. There's a recurring theme. While these models are incredibly powerful, their outputs require vigilant human oversight. It's both a blessing and a limitation.
And on top of that, there's the context window limitations. For ChatGPT, it's 4096 tokens, while GPT-4 can have more. And that clearly affects how much history the model can remember in a conversation.
Yeah, that limit is crucial. Imagine having a long conversation where important context just gets pushed out, like what happened with Bing Sydney being restricted to 5 turns to avoid misbehavior. That shows how, even in design, there are trade-offs between depth and manageability.
That's true. It's kind of an engineering compromise as much as it is a limitation of the current tech.
Speaking of trade-offs, the discussion really emphasizes how, while more parameters often mean better performance, efficiency is becoming increasingly important. Facebook's LLama and DeepMind's Chinchilla are examples where fewer parameters can sometimes match or even outperform larger models. It's like finding the perfect balance between quantity and quality.
Yes, kind of like fine-tuning a musical instrument. Too many strings and you just get noise.
Exactly. It's like, you can have a super powerful orchestra, but it needs to be well conducted to produce harmony. And on the topic of risks again, models might make stuff up or generate biased content if not carefully trained.
Right. And while reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF, seems to help steer these models away from harmful outputs, it's not foolproof. There are always those creative prompt injections that can get around the safeguards.
True, RLHF is effective to an extent, but as you say, it's just one part of a broader ecosystem of safety measures. And that's why, even with the incredible advances, there's a persistent need for careful oversight.
And it's also interesting how these risks extend to potential security threats if these models ever get integrated with critical systems.
Absolutely. The possibility of data poisoning or model reverse engineering is real. It's like giving someone the keys to your parked car. If they get hold of it, things could go dangerously wrong.
Yes, and it just underlines the importance of not treating these systems as set and forget. They need constant monitoring and testing.
Right. And now, looking at the future, despite all these challenges, this technology promises to rebuild entire workflows. Whether it's automating routine legal processes or acting as a personal assistant that can even negotiate on your behalf, the potential is enormous.
Yeah.
It's a kind of superpower that needs to be handled responsibly.
Absolutely. And I think the big takeaway is that while ChatGPT and its friends are revolutionary, they're also tools that mirror the complexity and sometimes the imperfections of humanity.
Precisely, and it leaves us with a pressing question. As we step into this future, what kind of world do we want to build with these new tools? There are incredible opportunities, but also significant challenges that require thoughtful engagement from all stakeholders. That balance will define how beneficial these advances truly are.
Well said. It's not just about the technology itself, but about how we as a society decide to shape and regulate it.
Exactly. And I guess that's a wrap for our deep dive today. We've explored the tech behind ChatGPT, the hidden costs, and even the deep security and ethical challenges. Thanks for being a part of this engaging conversation.
Thank you. It was a truly enlightening discussion. Till next time, keep questioning and stay curious.